Jovan Buha! Buha!
Yo, I'm Jovan Buha, Lakers beat writer for The Athletic, and welcome to episode 45 of Buha's Block. On today's episode, we are going to be discussing the Lakers over-under and 5 reasons why I think it is too low. So depending on the book that you look at, the Lakers over-under ranges from 43.5 wins to 44.5 wins. And that slots them at number 9 in the West across the several books. And for some perspective, the Lakers finished 7th in 2022-2023 with 43 wins. And last season, they finished 8th in the regular season with 47 wins and then played their way into the number 7 seed in the play-in tournament. So this would be a bit of a downgrade or a bit of a step back in terms of the Lakers win total and in terms of their seeding. So let's get into why I am more bullish on the Lakers seeding and their win total. But before we get started, you guys know the drill. For those watching on YouTube, please be sure to subscribe. If you're already subscribed, please be sure to turn notifications on. And then also be sure to like and comment on this video if you enjoy it. And then for those listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcast platform of choice, please be sure to follow, download, and leave a 5-star review. All right, so reason number 1 why I expect the Lakers to go over their over-under is the coaching upgrade. And we don't need to relitigate all the mistakes from the Darvin Ham era and all the reasons why the Lakers targeted JJ Redick from the beginning of their coaching search and all the potential that they see in him. But to quickly summarize it, it was a lot of playing lineups that were not effective. It was playing players that were worse than other players in the rotation. It was going away from the continuity. It was a lack of cohesion within the locker room, and at times a lack of consistency and guys not feeling like they understood their roles, or the game plan would change right before tip-off and stuff like that. So there were a lot of things that went into why the Lakers decided to move on from Darvin Ham. And if you look at JJ Redick and the things that he has said publicly about the Lakers playing with a more organized offense and more structure, mixing up coverages better defensively, and then specifically hyping up 3 players that are beloved by the franchise in Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, and Max Christie. And that is one of the benefits of replacing a coach who was unceremoniously let go, is that you come in and you know all the mistakes and all the pitfalls. And, part of it, I'm sure, is just like public posturing, and like you say certain things to win the press conference, or you say certain things to look good. Another thing is actually executing it, and that is the challenge for JJ Redick. So we don't know, like JJ Redick might not be an upgrade over Darvin Ham. It might be similar. It might even be a downgrade. But just from the public messaging, JJ Redick has the benefit of coming in and knowing where Darvin Ham fell short, what the organization felt the mistakes were. And then he also has a clear vision and is laying it out in ways that we never fully got under the previous regime. So from that perspective, he's coming in with an institutional knowledge of the previous mistakes and how he can rectify them. And then on top of that, this assistant coaching staff is more experienced than the previous coaching staff. You have a couple of former head coaches on the staff in Nate McMillan and Scott Brooks, guys that have led their teams to conference finals appearances. In Brooks's case, a guy who led a team to the finals. So you have a combined 40 plus years of coaching experience at the NBA level with just those 2 guys, and then 30 plus years of head coaching experience at the NBA level with those 2 guys. You have Bob Byer, who is a very experienced assistant coach and has some ties to the Stan Van Gundy, Steve Clifford tree. So he's got some familiarity with JJ from that. You have Greg St. Jean, who was there with the Lakers under Frank Vogel when they won the title in 2020. So he's got that relationship with LeBron and AD, and he's gotten to see how other successful organizations have operated in Dallas and Phoenix. Then you also have Lindsey Harding, who's coming off being the 2024 G League Coach of the Year. Is one of the more promising young assistant coaching prospects. The point is, I think the Lakers have a head coach who is going to have a certain level of detail and flexibility and accountability. and he's going to check a lot of the boxes that from a personality perspective and just an off the court perspective that the Lakers were looking for. But then from an experience perspective, this assistant coaching staff has a lot more head coaching experience and just coaching experience than the previous one. And I think that's going to matter. So I look at the coaching situation as an upgrade. I really find it hard to see any way it is the same or a downgrade. And again, just from that perspective, like I think this team is going to be better just from that. Reason number two why I'm optimistic about the Lakers is health. And this is a tricky one because it could easily go the opposite way. And health is just one of those things that it is an unforeseen variable. It is unpredictable. And if anything, based on the recent injury history of this team, you would expect there to be multiple injuries to multiple rotation players, and for LeBron and or AD to be among those, just based on how the last few seasons have gone. But I'm trying to look at the flip side of that, which is the Lakers have been one of the most banged up teams of the last few years. If you go by total games missed to rotation guys by injuries, and specifically like the impact of those injuries with LeBron and AD being injured in 3 of the last 4 seasons, with last year being the exception. So the Lakers have lost a lot of games due to injuries over the past few years. They've lost a lot of games because of injuries to LeBron and AD. And if somehow the injury regression goes in their favor and they have a Sacramento season from a couple years ago or an Oklahoma City season from last year, and they just have like their top 8 guys stay relatively healthy, everybody plays at least like 65 games, then I think they have a really good shot to fight for a home court spot. It's really going to come down to, I mean, of course, LeBron and AD, like those are the 2 most important guys, and can they replicate last year's health? And that was the healthiest they had been since the championship season, and it's going to be like you don't want to rely on that. So first and foremost, it's got to be keeping LeBron and AD healthy, and potentially that is lowering their workload or reducing their minutes, or maybe even taking a game off here and there when appropriate. But like LeBron and AD have to be healthy. But going back to last season, the Lakers would have clusters of injuries where it was Gabe and Vando and Cam out all at the same time, and those were 3 of their best perimeter defenders. And this season, if Gabe and Vando are healthier and Max Christie can remain healthy, all of a sudden you have 3 perimeter defenders that you did not have consistently last season. And the Max one was a rotational decision. That was a coaching decision. But Vando only played in 29 regular season games. Gabe only played in 12, I believe. So that's 41 games there combined from your 2 best perimeter defenders, or arguably your 2 best perimeter defenders. So a lot of this is just going to come down to the Lakers' health. It is the most important factor on this list, but that is the case every season. Like it comes down to the championship team is either the healthiest team or the team that was able to withstand injuries the best. And the Lakers are not in a place to withstand a LeBron or AD injury. They actually held up well last season when LeBron was injured, with D'Lo and Austin and Rui and even AD all stepping up to varying degrees. But I don't think that's something you want to rely on. It's not something that's sustainable. Like if this team does not have LeBron, they're not winning a playoff series. So they need LeBron to go on a run, just like they need AD. I mean, it's much worse without AD because it's going to be Jackson Hayes or Christian Wood stepping in, and maybe Christian Wood can replicate some of the offensive production, at least based on how he's looked in prior seasons and Houston and Detroit and Dallas and whatnot. But defensively, it's a massive down. I mean, it's like a Grand Canyon sized downgrade. Same thing with Jackson Hayes. So like the Lakers don't have a way to replace AD. They don't have a way to replace LeBron. So on some level, like this over-under is just going to come down to, can those 2 in particular stay healthy? Like everyone else, if Austin goes out, you can rely more on D'Lo and Gabe. If D'Lo goes out, you can rely more on Austin and Gabe. And Vando goes out, okay, now Rui's starting, and maybe Rui's starting anyway. But like if Vando's a starter, he goes out. All right, now you slide in Rui. Now you're playing a little bit more Dalton, a little bit more Max. You could play a little bit bigger and some more 2 big lineups. Slide LeBron down to the 3. So the Lakers can get creative with almost any rotation spot. It really comes down to the stars. And they are coming off a healthier season. Now they are playing in the Olympics, and that is a bit concerning concerning. So I'm not going to look past that. I just think if the Lakers finally, like this is a maybe a pie in the sky type reason, but if there is somehow like this team can stay healthy and not have one of the seasons that they've had over the past few years, I think there is a really good chance that they can win in the high 40s, if not the low 50s. I just also think you shouldn't go into a season assuming a team is not going to be healthy. I think you have to assume health and then adjust from there. And I think you could look at it one of two ways with LeBron and AD, where you can say, on the one hand, like they are more likely to be injured just based on recent history and them having a healthy season, and that's unlikely to happen again. Or you could look at it on the other hand of they did have a healthy season, and whatever steps they took and whatever factors went in their favor, they can try to replicate that this upcoming season. And it's also that confidence and that confirmation that they can stay healthy. For LA, like health is going to be a huge thing, just like it is with any team. But for now, if this team could stay healthy, I think on paper, they are better than a 44 or even 45 win team. And if you were taking the under, you are essentially saying that you think they're going to get injured. And that's fine because, again, there's a track record, there's a history there with it. I just think that's, like, I'm not going to go into the season assuming they're going to be unhealthy. So I will take the over in part just because I think this team, when healthy, is a top 5 or 6 team in the West. Reason number 3 is internal improvement, and that is important because the Lakers are essentially bringing back the same roster from last season, with the only changes being Taurean Prince and Spencer Dinwiddie out and Dalton Knecht and Bronny James in, though I would argue that Jared Vanderbilt and Gabe Vincent being healthy and Max Christie being elevated in the rotation are all upgrades over their predecessors. But that aside, like basically it is the same roster. It is the same core, the same top 7, top 8. LeBron, I mean, a lot is made of LeBron is going to be 40 in December, 80's 31. So those guys are above 30 and on the wrong side of the aging curve. But everyone else is in their 20s. Austin Reeves, D'Angelo Russell, Jared Vanderbilt, Rui Hachimura, Gabe Vincent, like the Max Christie, Dalton Knecht, like the core guys are all in their early to late 20s. It's a wide range there. But several of these guys can potentially improve, especially looking at a guy like Dalton Knecht should be better in game 70 than he is in game 1. Max Christie at just 21 should continue to improve throughout his 3rd season. I think Austin Reeves could improve. I think Rui Hachimura could improve. I think Jared Vanderbilt could improve. Maybe D'Angelo Russell takes another half step or step from the season that he just had. So like, I think there's a chance that all these guys get better. Several of them should get better. Again, Max Christie and Dalton Knecht should be better in game 70 than they are in game 1, just based on their age and their experience. But Austin Reeves, coming off of a rested summer, could have a much better start to the season. D'Angelo Russell having a little bit more clarity, though it seems like the trade rumors are going to hang over his head a bit. But Rui Hachimura is going to be coming off the Olympics, so that could be a bit of a factor, but he's coming in with a guaranteed role. Jared Vanderbilt is coming off an injury, but you know, getting healthy and rested, and you know, he's coming in with a guaranteed role as well. Gabe Vincent is going to be motivated coming off of a disappointing season. He talked about at various points like just how difficult it was to battle injuries and the expectations of being the Lakers' primary signing and not being able to live up to that just because he wasn't available, and then he came back late in the season and just wasn't himself. And so looking at the different ways that this group can grow, like yes, there's a new head coach, a new coaching staff, so that eliminates some of the continuity, but this is the 2nd training camp for most of the top rotation players together. This is going to be the 3rd consecutive season that most of them have played together, and those being LeBron, AD, Austin, D'Lo, Vando, Rui, Max. So those guys all have a level of experience together, a level of chemistry that they've built over the last couple of years. So you put that together with some of the internal improvement, and I think that there's a chance that this group, like sometimes keeping it together is a bad thing. Sometimes keeping it together is a good thing. And while I still think there are some clear flaws and some clear holes in this roster, I also think that keeping it together from a continuity perspective, like there could be some benefits to that. And again, I'm not advocating for the Lakers to not make a move. I still think they need to make at least one move, if not a couple, and then probably a couple, I mean, maybe even 3. Like, I think there's still ways for them to seriously improve this roster if they want to try and win a championship. But just from a continuity perspective, like Vando and Rui have the reps with those other 4 guys. Gabe Vincent was on the team last season. Max Christie has been on the team for a couple seasons. So like there is a baseline level of knowledge among the group and shared experience and whatnot. So I think that could be an advantage for at least the beginning of the season. Then I expect at some point the Lakers will make a trade or two and shuffle the deck, and then there's going to be a blank slate to some extent with some of the continuity and them reestablishing roles and lineups and rotations and all that stuff. But at least to start the season, I think the Lakers are in a better spot. Reason number 4 is the final third of last season, where the Lakers went 22-10 after inserting Rui Hachimura into the starting lineup. That was the 5th best record in the league and the 4th best record in the West, just behind Denver, Dallas, and Oklahoma City. And I mean, again, this kind of bleeds into the coaching part. This kind of bleeds into the continuity part. But when the Lakers played their best players and played their best lineups, they have been good over the last season and a half. I say season and a half because before the Westbrook trade, they were a disaster. That team was 13th in the West and several games under 500. And it was just a bad, that was just a disaster. But since then, they had the run after the 2023 trade deadline. They had the Western Conference Finals run, obviously. And then last year, another slow start. But after inserting Rui, they go on this run and they win at a 56 win pace. And I don't think that is necessarily sustainable. Part of that was due to schedule, although they did have a couple of longer East Coast road trips during that. And they also had the march toward the playoffs, and like they were playing several teams that were vying for the playoffs. There was also the stretches there where they lost LeBron for a couple games and AD for a couple games. So like it wasn't all peaches and roses and all that stuff. Like the Lakers were being competitive with a lot of the top teams in the West and beating a lot of them. And if you look at their record last year, I think really it's only been Denver and Sacramento that have given them problems in the West among like the West contenders or top, playoff teams. Like they looked pretty good against New Orleans, Golden State, the Clippers, the Suns, Oklahoma City, even Minnesota and Dallas. They were pretty kind of even with. I felt, those were always close competitive games, but like, I don't know. I just think they're right there with the rest of the West. And as long as they, again, like basically play some variation of LeBron, AD, D'Lo, and Austin plus Rui or plus Vando, and that's like their top 6, and then they sprinkle in some Gabe, some Max, some Dalton, and then one of Christian or Jackson, or maybe even both. If they play the right lineups, like the lineups have been, because looking at it, like Vando last year, they were what, plus, I want to say it was like plus 20, it was over a plus 25 net rating. It might have been like plus 27, plus 32 with him, with the other 4 starters. Going back to the 2023 season, they had a better than a plus 12 net rating with Vando, with the other 4 starters. So like the Vando starting lineup has been really good. The Rui starting lineup has been really good. And yes, there is a limitation. Like you're not playing those lineups for 48 minutes. But the larger point is like the Lakers can start games better. That was a huge problem for them last season. And really the first month and a half of the season. Like, remember how many times they were down double digits in the first quarter? How many times they were down like 15 or 20 plus points in the first quarter? And a large reason for that was they were starting Taurean Prince and saying, go guard Kevin Durant, or go guard De'Aaron Fox or Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, or go guard the best perimeter player. And that was just not the role for him. And that's a role for Jared Vanderbilt, and Jared Vanderbilt was out. But it's not really a role for Rui Hachimura either. But with Rui, we saw the firepower that the Lakers had, where if Rui is your number 5 option, you have a really, really good offensive lineup, and you have 5 guys who can get you 20 plus points a night. The Lakers even did that in a game against New Orleans, which I constantly reference just because of how crazy it was. First starting lineup to have all 5 guys go for 20 plus since 1993. So the Rui lineup has the offensive firepower to offset some of the defensive concerns, and the Vando lineup has a bit better balance, but a lower offensive ceiling just because of his limitations. So either way, it is better than starting Taurean Prince at the 3, or starting Taurean Prince and Cam Reddish over Austin and then Vando or Rui. So like the Lakers are in a better position from a starting lineup perspective. I think again, playing some of these lineups together is just going to be better. It's going to make sense. JJ is someone who's going to look at the lineup data and actually react to it and respond to it and play the lineups that are working and reduce the lineups that aren't working. So I think the Lakers left a lot on the table. And again, this one is related to the coaching and is almost like a subset of it. But I think if the Lakers can enter the season with Rui or Vando starting and the other one playing a prominent role off the bench and just play the right lineups, like this team has won with those types of lineups at a 50+ win rate. And will injuries affect that? Potentially, but that to me is a reason why this team should win in the high 40s or even higher. And reason number 5 is the trade possibilities that the Lakers have. And they still have 2 first-round picks. They still have some intriguing prospects in Dalton Connect and Max Christie. There are some trade restrictions in terms of those guys moving them right now, particularly with Christie. They wouldn't be able to move him until January 15th because of the contract that he signed. But they have the expiring contract of D'Angelo Russell. They have some mid-sized role players in Jared Vanderbilt, Rui Hachimura, and Gabe Vincent. They have multiple first-round pick swaps. They have multiple second-round picks. So the Lakers have not the biggest war chest in the league for sure, but they have a solid war chest in terms of assets to go out and make a move. And if some of these prices drop just due to the second apron and due to some teams not being as competitive as they initially projected to be, and we get to January or February and all of a sudden there are some intriguing players available or some players that the Lakers had previous interest in and those prices drop, then all of a sudden the Lakers can go out and get a potential game changer or two, or at least a ceiling raiser, and improve this roster. They are right there up against the second apron, so there are several notable restrictions for them in trades, but the Lakers can still improve this roster through trade. And if they can cobble together a D'Lo and a Vando, a D'Lo and a Rui, a D'Lo and a Gabe, plus a pick or two, or a pick and a swap, or a pick and a second round pick, and just put that together and make a competitive package for a starting caliber wing or a wing and a big or some variation of that. So this is more of a hypothetical reason. And who knows, maybe the Lakers don't make a move because they telegraphed that they were going to make a move last year. They tried to trade D'Angelo Russell. They tried to get DeJounte Murray and they weren't able to do that. They've been trying to make moves this summer and have struck out. They've been trying to trade D'Angelo Russell and have not been able to. So there's a chance that the Lakers aren't able to move some of these players, or none of the players rise to the level of them wanting to use their picks. So there's certainly a chance that this does not end up coming to fruition and they just end up with this roster, or maybe they make a small, they do a consolidation trade and they end up signing a vet minimum player or something, and that doesn't really materially change the roster. So certainly this could be another pie in the sky type reason, but the Lakers are armed with the assets to improve this roster, and they are taking a patient approach. But come mid to late January and early February, I think there will be urgency on their part to upgrade this roster. So with that context, I think there's a chance, if not a likelihood, that they end up making a move at some point. And there will be a learning curve for that new player, and the rotations and lineups and continuity will all be affected to some extent by that. But there's a chance that they can make this roster better. And so, for example, if they were able to add a Jeremy Grant, or they're able to add a Wendell Carter, or whoever, or even a Cam Johnson or a Dorian Finney-Smith, or both of those guys, I think we would look at this team a bit different, depending on the price, obviously, of course, but assuming it's a reasonable price, we would look at this team different, and they probably would have a 45.5 win total or 47.5 win total, depending on who they're adding. So for that reason, I think that the likelihood of them making a move at some point, for me, is cause for optimism and cause for them to go above their projected win total. And then quickly before I wrap up here, I have a few miscellaneous ones, which are there are plenty of bad teams in the NBA right now. I have a list here, but Portland, Utah, Detroit, Brooklyn, Chicago, Charlotte, Washington, Toronto, probably missing a team or two, but all those teams are tanking, blowing it up to some extent, trying to capture the flag, Cooper Flag, and several other top prospects in the 2025 NBA draft. So there are going to be a bunch of teams. I mean, I just listed that's 8 teams, and there could be as many as like 10 or 11 that are tearing it down and trying to tank and trying to get in a good position for the upcoming draft. And those are going to be some gimme wins, right? Now, most of those teams are in the East, so that does not benefit the Lakers as much as it does the Celtics and the Knicks and the Sixers and the Bucks and all the top Eastern Conference teams. But the Lakers still play those teams twice. And so while there is more parity in the league right now, and we don't have the 2016 Warriors or even the 2016 Spurs, and like we don't have these teams winning high 60s or above or even mid 60s. Like Boston is the one exception, and I think OKC is going to be really good, at least in the regular season. But there's going to be fewer of those dominant teams because of the CBA and because of this new era that we're in. However, I think this year there's going to be a lot of bad teams, a lot of teams winning 25 or fewer wins or 28 or fewer wins. And because of that, it's going to create an opportunity for the better teams to accumulate more wins. So for the Lakers, if we're saying in like an average season, let's just say the 43.5 is like looking at just kind of a normal season, I think there's a chance that that's a 45.5 or 46.5, 47.5, just because of how bad some of these teams are going to be. So I just think that's a miscellaneous thing. Also, LeBron and AD are still top 15 guys, if not top 12 guys. So having to, and again, they got to be healthy, and that kind of touches on the health stuff, but like the Lakers still have 2, at worst, top 15 guys. And that is something that I don't know if any other team in the league can make that claim. I think Boston gets close with Tatum and Brown, and I think Phoenix gets close with Durant and Booker. But I think LeBron and AD are the best duo in the NBA. I guess Jokic and Murray also get close, though I think Murray slipped a little bit last season. But to me, LeBron and AD are the best duo in the NBA, and that is something that when projecting out a team win total, again, health is baked into this to some extent, but like that, I mean, having 2 top 15 guys helps you, and it helps you win games. And there's a reason why the Lakers won 47 games despite some of the coaching issues and some of the depth issues with last year's team, and also just the injuries to important role players. And then, as I mentioned at the top, the Lakers won 43 games 2 seasons ago and 47 games last season. And remember, 2 seasons ago, you have the Russell Westbrook year 2, the disaster continues, the season is a debacle, and they have to make substantial changes to the roster deep into the season and remake it. And they go on this run to close it out. But they went 50 plus games with Westbrook, and just with how bad things were, and Patrick Beverly, and like just how bad that was, like that whole situation was. So they were able to withstand that and win 43 games. And then last year, the top 4 are healthy, but there's this rotating cast of supporting players due to injuries, due to rotational decisions, due to coaching stuff, and they still win 47 games. So I think if the Lakers can not have the Russell Westbrook situation happen again, and cannot have some of the role player injuries and just some of the rotational inconsistencies happen again, and there's a clear path, a clear vision, clear lineups, clear rotations, and all indications are that's going to be the case. Health, again, is unpredictable, but everything else that's in their control seems to be trending in the right direction. I think if they have reasonable health and a coaching upgrade and playing the right lineups, and there is some internal improvement due to continuity and some younger players taking steps, there's a lot here that can go right, a lot here that can lead to this team winning 44 games or winning 45 games. Like that's I guess maybe I buried the lead throughout this whole podcast, but essentially what you're saying is, can the Lakers go 44-38 or 45-37? And I think they can. I don't think that is crazy. Like I would project them at higher. I would probably project them around 47-35 again, 48-34, maybe even 49-33. I really have to think about it and go through the West and just the landscape. But basically it's, can the Lakers go 44-38 or 45-37? I think so. And again, looking at how bad 2 seasons ago went, and they still won 43 games. Different West at the time, for sure. But then last year, a lot went wrong, and they still won 47 games. So I think this team can win 44 or 45 plus games. And I think the line is low, and they're going to go over that. But that will do it for today's episode. For those on YouTube, please let me know in the comment section below what you think of the Lakers over under. Do you think they're going to go over? What is your win prediction for next season? And if you really hold my feet to the fire, I think I would say 48 wins right now. And that is with factoring in Memphis is going to be better. Houston's going to be better. Like a lot of the teams in the West stayed the same or got better. Really only Denver took a step back and the Clippers took a step back. But I think Golden State is going to be better. I think Houston, Memphis, New Orleans, Sacramento, I think Minnesota, I think the Dillingham will be nice off the bench. Oklahoma City clearly got better. Dallas might be kind of around the same, though there is a potential higher upside in my opinion for them, especially with a second season together with a lot of those guys. So like the West is tough. The West, there are no nights off. So from that perspective, like 48 wins for the Lakers in next season's West could be the equivalent of 51 or 52 in last season's West. But let me know in the comment section below your perspective on the over-under and what you think the Lakers win total will be. And then be sure to hit that subscribe button, turn notifications on, and like this video. And for those on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcast platform of choice, please be sure to follow, download, and leave a 5-star review. I'll be back later in the week. I will talk to you then.